Everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and take a look at hot spots in the market for today. Today being Thursday, March 3rd. I had to think about that for a second. Tomorrow's March 4th. Okay, yeah, tomorrow we get orders to March. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Yeah, I am feeling a little bit better today, which is always kind of nice. I'm on the upswing, on the mend here. My advice, don't get COVID if you can avoid it. So what are we looking at today? We are seeing oil did pop up overnight, breached 116 and has since pulled back. So we're seeing volatility in oil, a lot of that being driven by the war in Russia and Ukraine and the uncertainty on the supply side while we know demand is up. We actually saw nat gas taking a move a bit as well. We'll take a look at those two. Along with oil, the Canadian dollar's making some moves. So we definitely want to look at spots where things are moving in the markets. The one thing that is driving the markets a little bit, we did get initial jobless claims here in the States. They came in slightly better than expected, slightly lower than expected. But the big number is going to be the non-farm payroll tomorrow. So we've got that number tomorrow morning right before we go live. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that and what you might want to be looking at or potentially looking at tomorrow morning before we kick things off. And then today we do have the Fed Chairman Powell testifying. Yesterday we got his remarks. We know that he's intending to raise 25 basis points, but now he's going to be in front of Congress. This is while there'll be some scripted remarks, there is then going to be the questions, the hard questions. So we'll see what Congress has for him in terms of handling inflation, the very, very hot inflation that we've got going on with the backdrop of the pandemic and the global war. So, well, or at least the war in Europe, potential global war. Before Brian and I jump into it, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. We will take a peek at this chart. In fact, I'll just wait. I'm gonna flip it over to you, Brian, so we can jump right into it, and we'll take a quick peek at the headlines. But really, what's going on in oil? We can see that we are clearly pulling back from the 116 level. Wow, down, coming up on $4 lower from where it spiked in the middle of the night. What that's doing to the Canadian dollar, and then we can take a peek at equities as well. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the last 24 hours, really the only movement we've seen at this point has been the pound, and it's continuing to press forward. The euro is still remaining to be a little bit weak. Euro pound down 45 because of it. Dollar CAD is finally kind of recoupled again. It's down 58 right now. A lot of that is the oil story where it kind of went back into oil. Not only did they have the raise yesterday, but we also saw crude oil inventories. Not quite as bad as the API number. The API was it was like -6 or something like that. It only came in at -2, so not nearly as bad. But again, still a reason why oil should have gone a little bit higher, and it did. As far as headlines go, really not much. I mean, yesterday we warned you guys. If Powell mentioned point two, like he did not mention anything as far as rate totals go. That if he mentioned anything that had to do with 0.25 or anything dovish, look for the market to spike, and that's exactly what happened. He said 0.25 instead of 0.5. He did say, we could do we down the road we could do a 5. So he has thrown that out there, but it looks like he's leaning towards 0.25. So the market had to immediately adjust yesterday, and that's why we had the big rally. And now we're kind of flat on it. So besides that, there's not really much else in here. Next round of kind of talks between Russia and the Ukraine is actually supposed to start. It's about an hour in, hour and a half in. I guess it was supposed to start at 7 a.m. Whenever you see GMT, it's kind of like, wait a second. Wait, what is that to Eastern? And then we daylight savings time is not. And again, Todd, it's not the Russian and Ukraine war. It's a war in the Ukraine. It's not in Russia. It's only in one country.
Between Russia and Ukraine, right?
Between is different.
In Ukraine is right.
Yeah,
Good
but
call.
besides that, I mean, and really, I mean, the only thing we've heard out of additional headlines with that, I mean, obviously going back and forth, it's always hard when you're trying to translate things. When you listen to, Lavrov, some of their comments, it's like, well, what is he trying to say here? You can tell that the translation is not really an exact science here when they're doing it. You'd love to say that it is, but it's the translation is not there. So I'm not even going to click on the title, but basically that they're ready to talk. Credit Suisse getting in some trouble, and again, not really, it doesn't really affect too much. And besides that, um, really not a whole lot in here. Germany, one of the big things that we're seeing right now, Germany is actually increasing their defense spending, and it's something that we haven't seen for such a long time. And everybody was very anti against it. When you increase your defense spending, that definitely stimulates your kind of economy. Everybody said war is bad, but war is very good for economies. There's a lot of spending, and again, it's Germany's doing it, which is interesting because Germany is protected under that NATO clause. But right now, we've seen one major city in the U.S. says no, it hasn't fallen, but everybody else is like, yeah, it's fallen.
Yeah, it's fallen. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but U.S. intelligence is like, no, it hasn't. So I don't know. It's one of those things. The Ukraine has lasted a lot longer than anybody ever predicted they would. And again, you're hearing all different types of stories about it. I mean, the peace talks is good. It's now everything is just kind of speculation. So we really have to kind of jump back and just look at economic numbers again. Obviously everybody is supporting the Ukraine, and you're hearing, oh, Russia's using bad bombs. It's like, yeah, you know what? The United States uses the same bombs. We use them in Afghanistan. So, there's a lot of misinformation going on out there about what's happening, what's not happening. And the Ukraine is, so far, a lot of the thoughts from the Ukraine are they're very unhappy about the State of the Union speech. That was also something that, they're like, listen, this is, you're not supporting us, and they were quite unhappy. So, wasn't necessarily what we were looking for that either. So, I don't know. Back into the headline, as far as the headlines go, I wouldn't say there's a lot of market moving today. With non-farm payroll tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m., today should be a little bit slower of a day. Um, I don't think the peace talks are going to create peace today. Russia's taken over one major port. They're going to go for the second one, and I think it's the force is just so big at this point. I think it's kind of hard to stop without any military support. So, you know. Non-farm should be interesting tomorrow. Powell testifying today. If he follows his normal suit, yesterday he was extremely dovish. He tends to do one thing one day and one day the next day. I'm curious today if he'll be a little bit more aggressive with it. Now that everybody knows he had a kind of a weak talk yesterday, today would be the day to really hit him with more of the hawkish statements. And the indices are showing that. It's pushed up and it's really kind of at highs where sellers are already sitting in the market. So it's kind of prime for more of a down day today. And then we have ISM manufacturing or ISM services data, which again, services is always a little bit funky this time of year. So, non-farm tomorrow, they're expected to show an average, increase in earnings of 0.5 again, with inflation that you expect to see that. And again, that kind of means when you're seeing the average hourly earnings continue to rise, that means inflation's here to stay and they're okay with the inflation. So not really the best. And then again, non-farm expected to be, 400,000, which is great. Unemployment rate supposed to drop down, but again, this number is not necessarily accurate. So
Yeah.
that's all
But
we're seeing as far as economics.
it will give us a peek. It is something into the U.S. economy. So yeah, I mean, those are going to be some pretty big numbers. So be prepared when we're kicking off tomorrow morning to wrap up the week. I think that could be something that actually moves the markets outside of the things that have traditionally been moving the markets lately, namely, global politics and
Mhm.
oil
Yeah,
issues. This
it's
is
it's going to depend
purely
what it does
economic.
today.
Yeah.
I think it depends what it does today. If Powell says nothing and we go flat, then maybe. With the markets already poised to go high, if we go down today, then yes, these numbers are poised to go back up.
Yeah.
Again,
All right.
going right into charts. I mean, looking at it, we'll start with the ETH then, I guess, and those things. I mean, this just goes to show you. At the end of the day, we saw this collapse, right? Oh God, there's war, there's war, there's war. Oh, we're not going to raise interest rates. It shows you how little effect that the war was actually having on the U.S. The second that they didn't mention that, we had an enormous spike almost immediately the rest of the day, and it was extremely positive. Just because we don't even know what they're going to do yet. It was just kind of the his opinion of, yeah, like 0.25 sounds great for me. Just because he said those words, we don't even know. We just know they're raising, and yet markets rallied very, very fast off of it. So where we're now, we've had sellers up here before. Again, we've pushed through this limit a little bit. We've gotten some pullback, and this is ES right now. We'll drop to a 15. But you can see, I mean, this was a great trade yesterday. Powell spoke and moon, off to the moon. We've hit it. Sellers have stepped in. Sellers have stepped in, and we're pushing higher right now. And again, there's really no headlines right now that would be kind of considered negative. But with prices rallying up, I would say it is probably more poised for a downside. If Powell mentions anything about we need to make sure we use every tool at our disposal, and we're not rolling out point 0.5. Anything that is hawkish should lead these to roll. But if he doesn't say anything, if he still maintains that same tone, again, it should be another nice positive day in there.
Yeah. And also, don't forget what he might do with the Fed balance sheet.
Yeah, but I think that one's decided. I think that's the one part that we do know that they're going to try to
they're
remain
just going to
soft
let
with
him
it.
roll off. But that is big. I mean, just so everyone knows, keep an eye on that. He did say yesterday they're just going to let him roll off. But if he says that selling assets is always still on the table, or it's potentially on the table, or something like that, that could roil the markets as well. So,
But I think it's fair to assume that most
he's not gonna say that.
99.9% of the people in Senate have actually, or in Congress, have absolutely no idea what that actually even means. So, you know, it
Yeah,
won't be
I'm not
lost
sure
on the
they know what
markets, but
anything means.
yeah, so I don't think he's going to go that deep in it. They know what interest rates are, they know what inflation is, but as far as balance sheets and runoffs, I don't think that's beyond their level of, you know. It's like them asking, you know, the people from Meta, you know, about their algorithms behind the scenes. You know, they get an honest answer and they're like, I don't know what you just said. Can you translate it for me? It's kind of the same thing when it gets too deep. So I think they're going to be higher level questions, and it's going to be again pointed things towards, you know, their actual campaign promises and how they can get zingers in. And again, inflation and gas prices is going to be a big one. So. But like I said, ES, we're kind of, again, we're poised in the overnight, you know, European session, really since 6 o'clock this morning has sent it straight up. So again, knowing that we're going to have a speech, you know, day 2, and yesterday was all positiveness, they're going to try to hit with something. So again, it's you know, it's going to flip. And again, it's very strange when every single one of the indices is at exactly the same point. What I mean by that is,
let's look at the other charts.
ES is up 0.55, NQ is up 0.53, YM is up 0.54, Russell is up 0.53. So they're all within 0.01 of each other up. They're all kind of, you know, they're all floating in the same area. And again, these are all areas where we've seen sellers. You know, NQ, same thing on the 15. Sellers. This is hit number 3. Again, look in the drive through, but we'll see if we can find sellers right above it. YM, kind of the same thing. You know, we had the big push down. We had the big push down, the big push down. We came back up. And again, you know, is it the first hit? No. You know, we've been here before. We've touched it. This is third hit. Third hit, fourth hits are when we start breaking, and now these old sellers become buyers. So, again, if he does say that it's weak, and you know, we've got to look at numbers. And again, remember, first it was transitory, you know, then it was the tight labor market, and now they're back on the tight labor market again. But we're not really, you know, we're not necessarily seeing those things. So, you know, I would say right now with, you know, this one is actually, the Russell's already pushed through, but you can see we had multiple hits on it and now we're pushing through. The question is, if we can get a pullback before he starts talking, is this going to be the launching point for us to go? And again, there's still war, but hey, listen, we're not doing anything with interest rates. We go back up again and we're approaching all-time high. So, you know, again, remember, there is global factors out there. I think oil is important to mention. Remember, we talked about oil finding a top and having that failure to go higher. Well, there it is. We didn't have one until that time. This morning at the European session is when it kicked in, and then it pulled back at 8 o'clock this morning. And now look at the drop in oil.
Oh my gosh!
Coming back down again.
When we got on, it was around one. Look at this. It's just while we've been talking here, down at 106, 107. I mean, oil is just absolutely catching a seller.
Yeah. I mean, there's the failure, right? We were talking about it. We didn't have it. It drove higher again. There's kind of a little fake out here, but it was pulling from the base here. Came up again, broke it. You're like, is that it? Well, we knew we had buyers there. Now it came up. It tried. It turned in a little area, came up, and that was a decent top. Boom. So, yeah, it's just a session roll. And you know, and if you look at the headlines, what's supporting this, you can talk about an oil embargo. There was an article this morning about how we haven't done it yet, right? We've put sanctions on everybody, but if we touched oil, it would have seismic repercussions, right? We've been very careful to impose it. We haven't touched it. We've done everything else there. We've hit OnlyFans, but we haven't touched energy exports because it would affect us. It just shows that it's not really about what the sanctions are. It's about us first. And even with those statements, large drops. I mean, we're talking about a $10 drop in less than one trading session. Natural gas also, but natural gas yesterday, I warned you guys at 488, and again, it came up and hit it late last night, hit it again, and then has also been deteriorating in the overnight. And again, maybe they know something that's going on right now that we haven't heard yet. You know, like I said, there are peace talks, but maybe, again, is there any type of insider trading? Maybe, right? But these are pretty big moves. And again, some of this could be profit taking. I mean, again, oil all the way up at 116, seeing those big drives, you got to get profit at some point. And once somebody starts taking profit, other people like to take profit. And then it's like, oh, let's go. So,
yeah, now,
again, Big day.
check out the
Big day down.
CAD because the Canadian dollar was moving right along inverse with oil, but it has not.
No, it's dead on again. I mean, it's doing the exact thing that it should. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yesterday we were sitting where this here. Let me go back to a 30-minute. Yesterday we were sitting here and we had the oil inventory report coming out, and we talked about how it had been decoupled, but it was starting to kind of get back on pace. Well, oil inventory report came out yesterday. We saw oil start to spike up, and again, all of a sudden we started to see the CAD continue to drop down. Now we had talked about this level. It's been out there for a while. This has been out here for a while. The 126.48. Again, here's that perfect kind of lightning bolt, right? We dropped down. And again, you could have taken it twice. We dropped down, we based, we came back and touched. You could have got entered right there, right? It also dropped down, came back up and touched again, and you could have got entered there, and then it blew right through the target that we were looking for. Now it's rallying, it's coming back. Excuse me. Dollar CAD is coming back, but we're seeing oil go to the downside, so it's doing exactly as it should. It looks like the Canadian currency has finally recoupled itself back to oil, which makes sense. So
Yeah.
they typically don't stay uncoupled forever, and gold was the same thing. Gold is still rather flat, but it's trying to relink itself back into the Aussie. So,
yeah. All right. So listen, with that, I am going to say, like, I mean, we covered quite a bit this morning. Not a lot of crazy things going on in the world at the moment, other than oil right now starting to bottom out after touching 116 last night. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. We are here to help. Please email us if you have any questions, concerns, or need any assistance. Brian and I are also available. If you were looking for help from Brian, give him an email, shoot out a question, support@keeptradingsimple.com. We will be back tomorrow morning. Again, what we've got going on today, we just had those initial jobless claims come in. Tomorrow morning, we do have those non-farm payroll and the unemployment rate. So before we go on, we might see some movement in the market based upon what those are significant numbers that come out once a month. We do have at 10 a.m. Eastern this morning, Powell getting in front of Congress and testifying. Don't know what's going to get thrown at him, so pay attention to his remarks. That could end up moving things as well. And of course, all of this with the backdrop of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Any headline news there, we might see things change. But oil is clearly in play. That is a hot spot. And if you're looking for price action oil, those binary options are the knockouts. One place to take a look. If you like what we're doing, please drop in a like, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube. Brian and I do appreciate that. We will catch you again tomorrow morning, right after those numbers come out. So until then, good luck in the markets, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.